Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guest, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight we are going to be talking about how to nourish our heart, our soul, our mind, our body, our pathway in this lifetime. What are we growing? What are we nourishing ourselves with? What are we bringing in? What are we releasing? And how can we see that we can increase the flow, the energy of what is around us to become of a higher plane, a higher dimension, a higher space? Perhaps can we become just as a butterfly, and maybe we're transitioning from a worm. We think about our garden. Today, my guest is Sally Gallot-Reeves. Her book is The Soul Garden Pathway, Discovery Guide. And truly what we're talking about today is we watch something in its cycle. We watch it grow. It flourishes. It's nourished. It says, now it's time. I'm in the sunset of my life. And it goes into dust. It goes into the earth. And then all of a sudden, it shows up again. And you're going, where did you come from? Is your magic and your mystery all about? Sally, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Dr. Jeanette. It's been wonderful to be back with you, and I just love your show. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you, Sally, because I think as you and I are, we're going to be angels, and we're going to be navigating from a higher plane today, and we're going to be talking about what we see out there and how to be able to nourish the world around us, right?
Yes, especially the nourishment. That's a good thing.
Absolutely. You know, sometimes when we talk about things, we say, what is it all about? And we talk about our soul and our heart. You know, it's about the words that we're using. It's about the energy that's around us. It's about, sometimes you feel like you want to become it's almost as if, what is it called? Like a hockey player. You want to punt, but you want to duck. And you have to become very good at it to navigate the human existence these days, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. There's so many challenges and obstacles if people choose to see them that way, or growth experiences from which we can expand.
Yeah. Well, you know, I always take it, go ahead, give me a whop. What's it going to feel like, you know? Didn't we as kids always say, boy, we're going to stick our finger in those electric sockets and see what it's going to do, you know? You can remember back in the 50s and 60s, that's what we all did. Or we said, hey, the TV, all of a sudden, what is that thing? It's a box. All of a sudden, the box started playing a television show, you know? And then we look at it now in these days, and we're talking about quantum physics. Do you think that over the several decades, we are on warp speed of knowing, evolving, and expanding our consciousness?
I hope we're expanding our consciousness. We have every ability and every information channel, and I'm talking from a spiritual level, open to us to be able to do that. I hope with the influx of internet and everything at warp speed coming towards us, we don't get lost in that whirlpool of what we think we need to know and what we think we need to be about. Because truthfully, in my mind, it's just so unimportant to the evolution of us and our growth in spirituality.
Right, because sometimes people will say, oh, I'm a spiritual person now, and all they've done is change their jacket, you know, or maybe put on different colored glasses to see a different perception, or they still are changing their language or their dialogue or their dialect to have a different lateral experience. They really haven't transcended, so to speak. Do you think?
I do. And I honestly have had my own experiences where, you fluctuate. But I find that I had a wonderful discussion with a medical intuitive a month or so ago, and he used the word surrender. And I said, I think that means weakness. And he said, no, it means faith. And it really surprised me. Because I was thinking, especially in my corporate career, you have to be strong, you have to be, always right, my ego talking. And it just brought such a new, wonderful freedom to look at things in the world from a different, higher perspective. And I think we can all do that. We can all change how we choose to look at things in order to expand our consciousness, in order for us to really be closer to our higher self and our soul.
I think the idea is that people say, but we have to see you, we have to know you, so therefore we need you to be in the same plane to exist with us. When in essence, truly what you and I were talking about is about existing and staying in our higher plane and space, in allowing others to see our energy and they to come to us, versus we go down and lower ourselves to a space and time where we might get caught up in a web that really isn't ours in the first place. Do you think?
That's very true. Yes. And I think by being our true selves, our authentic selves, we are able to share our energy more fully and in more greater dimension, a higher light, more divine light, and that can only nourish and help others grow.
Yeah, I think all the time, I had shared on the show, I think about 11 years ago, I said, I can see you, I can come over, I can lay next to you, and you're saying, but this is where I'm at. And I'll say, okay, I'll meet you there and lay down next to you, except we're going to turn over. We're going to lay on the ground and we're going to turn over and we're going to look up at the sky. We're going to look at the outward potential. We're not going to continue to look down at the earth where we're stuck and we're embedded in the old or the history or the old stories or paradigms or dogma. We're going to look up and say, now what do you see? Can you see all of the greatness? Can you see the potential? Can you see that there is nothingness but yet everything? And that great unknown is where we should exist. But how can we get there, right?
Yep. It's a process. It is definitely a progression of understanding and letting go, so that we aren't attached to the roots of the human existence, but can actually go to the upper branches and beyond in order to feel, we could go as high as heaven. We could go as high as sky. We can be one with the angels all time.
I think about it all the time when people say about letting go and releasing and everything. A lot of times people will say, but I'm going to lose my identity. I am a mother, father, brother, sister. This is my job. This is my corporation. This is my country. This is my outward appearance. This is how I make sure I'm dressed every day as my, how I should be validated in the world. When in essence, what would happen if all of that went poof? I live here in the land in New Orleans of what I call hurricanes, and so many people have lost everything. And I mean literally stand on the corner, nothing. Not even your wallet, your purse, and nothing. But their life didn't end. They just created and started something new. And they just went to a different space and time, and all of their stuff was okay. I think about it also, too, when I work with end-of-life clients, if someone will call up and say that someone passed away, you go to their house the next day, all of their stuff is out on the street. So all of this stuff that you've been attached to, holding on to, claiming that's going to go to this, that, or the other person, or this, that, or the other is going to give me a good life, a good death, a good passage, whatever, or maybe they will remember me by, is just stuff. Are you willing to let go of that stuff?
And I think part of the letting go is we, as a human being on Earth, we have a very false sense of security in all of this stuff. And if we have stuff and we have roles and we have titles, there's a security that we will always be okay. Well,
right.
I guess it depends on how you view being okay. But
right.
more often than not, you never become who you're meant to be. And that, to me, is very sad, very stifling, because you'll get another chance. You'll come back again, and the same questions, the same lessons will all be there.
Well, in essence, if you look at it, this stuff is your outward identity. So are you being asked to be able to shed it all and stand there and say, I am nothing else, and there's no other words, but then also, too, to even let go of the I am, because even the I am is a judgment. So can you live without, and be able to say, can I just experience and just feel as if that? I think that's pretty hard, because a lot of times people will say, but I'm going to lose caring. I'm going to be no longer loved or cared for. And what would happen if? So they live in the what ifs in the fear-dominated world, right?
Yeah. The what ifs can really play a huge trick on your mind. First of all, if you're in the what if land, you're not in the present. You're not living in the present. You are somewhere in future trying to navigate all the possibilities of change that could come to you, And life is so much more simpler when you're in the present, because then you experience everything that's right before you. From what a beautiful flower is out in your garden, to I know that I just had an inspiration and a flood of beautiful warmth come through from a higher realm.
Right.
And you miss that if you are always worrying and wondering and trying to plan ahead to be, quote-unquote, ready.
Right, because then you're stuck in outcomes. You're waiting for it to appear as if. You know that old paradigm. I'm going to talk to you if you dress like the same, you talk like the same, and we are going to be in an equal level of communication. And what happens if there is no communication? I've always had this dream, Sally, and I've shared it so many times on the radio, but I think it's appropriate to share here again, is that there'd be this big, huge, great, room in a hotel, like a big auditorium or whatever. And I would be the moderator. And I would have tons of people. No labels, no nothing. And they would all have all of their senses shut off, except your touch. And they would have, you wouldn't hear, you wouldn't see, you wouldn't smell. And you would just go into this room, and you would be blinded with all of those senses. And you would all, just go into a circle and hold hands. And in essence, we would just ask you to breathe for 5 to 10 seconds. And then just breathe again for 5 to 10 seconds. And then to say what you felt. And what you would feel is you would just feel energy going around the circle. You would just feel the warm energy going around the circle. Because you would be blinded to the identities of all the humans that we've created. And you would take off your mask, so to speak, and you would now be able to see, smell, and hear. And you would say, oh, my gosh, I'm next to that person. Ooh, I'm next to that person. Oh, goodness, I'm so glad I'm next to this person. And all of that stuff comes rolling back. So in essence, how can we exist from that higher plane when we are still in this human story? And the answer, I think, is practice, but I think also, too, it's compassion. It's also, too, unconditional. Now, can we get to that place 100% of the time? Probably not. Can we get there? Definitely. And work with it? At least 50% if we attempt it, right?
Yes, and the willingness to want to grow and experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this human story that we all are attached to so much, just as we said before, all the tchotchkes that you have in your house, when you turn around and those things are all gone, like what is there left? So if we can see that we're devoid already of all of this human story, like I shared in my story, if you're blinded by all of that, that's the veil that you go through from life to death. Are you willing to take that while you're still here and say, oh, I don't have fear in that anymore. I'm okay. So is that not bringing you in touch with something more than yourself?
Again, this thing of fear and how it clouds all of our, how it can cloud all of our perceptions of things. You talked about judgment, how we even judge ourselves, the roles, the needing to be a particular person in order to communicate with other people. We have such potential to be more than what we are. And we see this world that has such pain and limitations associated with it. And in my mind, it is all about the fear. Right. The fear of letting go and the fear of the unknown. When the unknown is such a loving, energetic, compassionate world, I have experienced sometimes, I know you have experienced, and it is exactly what I want to share with everyone else.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I simply cannot comprehend why we don't have seeds that people go out and spew all over the roads and all over the grass. Why are we cutting grass to look pretty? Why are we not seeding everything for food and just leaving it open? So what if somebody's picking 100 tomatoes out of your front lawn? You got 200 in the back. Do you know what I mean? So the idea is I can't comprehend that at all. I truly live in the higher planes 90% of the time, and I can't understand why you can't share things around. I don't understand why when our clothes get old that we throw them in the garbage. It's like, but you can take those clothes and cut them up into pieces and make blankets for people. I don't understand that. Why you can't do that? It's like I take everything to that further nth degree to not understand why are you so limited within that. So the story is how can we create more potential? Story we can create more potential is about sharing these kinds of stories. If you go out and just keep planting tomatoes everywhere, eventually, the powers that be that control the food because it's a money thing, or we don't want to because of this, that, or the other. It's all about control, but the control is the human vehicle and the human dogma. So the essence is who's going to win? Don't you think this is the absolute? Who's going to win, the soul or the human?
I have to believe, and I do believe, that it will be the soul. I think we have seen a huge evolution over the centuries, many, many transformations, and the ability for you and I to bring these conversations forward, to bring these written words forward, and radio shows, and to get messages out there. And people begin to think. And they think with their mind, but their mind connects with their hearts through their emotions and their feelings. Right. And then they can step forward again and go another place where compassion becomes their norm.
Yeah.
And there is no judgment. And we are looking at all of us because we know that there's really only one of us together.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? People talk about abundance, and a lot of people are struggling with money. Money doesn't make much sense to me at all. And someone had said to me at one time, they said, well, that's why you have trouble with money, because you just don't exist. And I'm going, leave it go. Just leave it go, because you're trying to still rope me into that old story. But in essence, if you look at money, I mean, if you remember, like in the 50s and 60s when you and I grew up, women made money at home when they did the laundry. It's because there was always money in the washer and dryer. Don't you remember that? You know, or when you put your clothes away. Hey, dude, if you left your pants on the floor, I'm emptying the pockets. You know what I mean? And yeah. That's how money, women, that were at home ended up with some pocket cash, That's the way it was. And then now we've gone to cards, where we don't have money anymore. We're going, oh, goodness, we're not getting any money in the house anymore. But then if you look at it even further, people are talking about Bitcoin. They're saying, oh, it exists in the ethers. Well, yeah, it does. That's really where abundance is all about, So in essence, we're being teased, so to speak, about these ether kind of quantum concepts, and we're trying to understand them, but they're still lodged in the human format, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the difficulties. We're still trying to understand them in our own earthly framework, rather than saying, I need to let go of my foundations, and I need to believe beyond what I can see,
right?
And know that beyond that lies freedom, and it is a freedom that...
Going back to the circle, right? Because if you let go of all of that, there's nothing left, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I had a guest on the other day, and we were talking about science and quantum physics and stuff, and he was still trying to bring healing, but we need to validate the miracle healing in the form of quantum da-da-da-da-da-da, and then it was like, oh, my goodness, you're still attached to that, to the outcome with the old story, but you're giving it just a different you're giving it a different book because you want it to be whatever, So it's, I think I'm looking forward to the day. I cannot wait till the alphabet goes away. I mean, I was walking down the hall one day and I hit my toe on the wall, and my husband says to me, oh my gosh, what'd you do, hit your foot? I said, no, I was trying to walk through the wall, but it got in the way, It's like I forgot that I couldn't do it in this time where I'm in, because I know I've done it before, or someone would, I realized, a few weeks ago, I said, oh my gosh, I'm not remembering stuff, whatever. And then about a week later, I talked to my son, and he says, oops, I can't remember the whole week what happened. So in essence, I was already within his energy. I was feeling his stuff. And knowing that something was up, and I had already gotten those messages. So I worked on the clearing of the healing of the energy to transpose it and send it back to him. You see? So that's, we are in a whole different plane of dimension of time. And, just as you and I are talking, people are looking at us, where's our antennas? And I'll say, oh, wait a second, I just put them under the back. Let me get them out, So it's sort of like they think that we are like from ET world, and I'll say, yeah, I've been here forever. What's the difference? So we could ease up and not have to be so scared of the conversation, right?
And I think they don't realize that those same communications and messages already come to them. They just choose not to hear it. But intuition is the angelic conversation with you. And if you disregard that, then you are missing another whole ability that you have to go beyond your own thinking and to know what they wish to communicate with you.
Yeah. You know, I think is the easiest trick to start your intuition going forward is, let's say you go to a restaurant and you order something and they bring it to you and they set it down in front of you and you just pass your hand over it and you go, what do I feel? And all of a sudden your stomach will flip and you go, oh, I don't feel like eating that, you know? And then you send it back. And I've gotten to the point where I don't eat out. I only eat what I make because I know the energy of the food. But the point is that you can start to feel it and sense it and know it. Mm-hmm. And you say, well, if I can do that here, I can do that anywhere, right?
Yep. I mean, you know very clearly, your energy comes off people, and you know very clearly and very quickly, you get a sense of who they are and where they're at in their intent, in their projection out into the world. That's a very useful tool. And I think it's meant for us to really define who we wish to be with and associate with. So like as I had talked previously, you don't get dragged down into that bogginess of negativity, judgment, all of that.
Yeah, I always call it, you don't get sucked into the swamp. And isn't that funny that I do live in an area where they built it up? Because this area here where I live now in 2022, it was a swamp when I was here in 1974. So I definitely know what it means to be living in a swamp. I live in one. And also, too, I pick up all of the past lives, and I have the vortex is the mirror in my bathroom, and I don't notice time and things like that indefinitely, It's just all of these conversations of dimensions and time. Once we open up to it, it's almost as if you're watching 100 different movies playing out at the same time. And some of them are children's, and some of them are scary, and some of them are not, and some of them are in a different language, and others will draw you in with different colors, and some will just be black and white. The difference is awareness, and that's truly what your book is about, the Soul Garden Pathway. Discovery Guide is, what is your awareness today? Where are you today? Write down the answers in your guidebook. And date it. I always say date it. Always, always, always. Put your initials in, date it. And then come back to it another time and do it again. And you'll say, my goodness, look at how things have changed. Yes. Isn't that what we're trying to find?
Yes. And I think that's a wonderful practice for people. I certainly do it in my journal, but I also do it as I'm collecting information to write my books. I will date them. I'll even write little notes to myself about what I was thinking or what went on that day. And I find when I go back, not only is it so fabulous how much things have changed, I see how the importance of me finding that piece or reading that piece was so that I could step forward again and grow from it and be different.
Right. But also, too, sometimes we think that we're struggling or, I'm still struggling with this. When in essence, when you read your old entry, you'll say, there's that word. I already knew that. I knew that back then. So I wasn't struggling. I just had it coined out as a different framework or a sentence. Do you remember, Sally, when you were in English in like second and third grade, they had us diagramming sentences?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you'd have the noun and the verb, and you'd have these, what do they call them, dangling participles, or an adverb and an adjective and all this other stuff. Well, in essence, truly what we're saying is, can you just see that all of those things below the line are just like flowers in your patio, or they are like, adornments in your hair. They're not at all the essence of what it is, right?
Yeah, that's a great example. I like that. I struggled so with dangling participles.
I still don't know what they are, but I remember the word.
Well, when I get my books back from the editor, I know exactly what it is.
It's so funny because so many times people will say to me, where's your books? Where's your books? People have been asking me that probably for 4 decades now. And I always say, I share my energy through my words. Just listen. Yeah. Because putting it down into words then makes it a construct that I can't interpret. So I definitely know what you're talking about. I remember dangling participles, but I don't remember what they are. And someone said to me at one time, you shift. You go from I to we to me to this to that. And I'm going, yeah, because I don't see any difference. I see the collective. Right. Can't you see that?
Yeah,
and they're
that's
going,
a beautiful way to put it.
You know what I mean? And I'm sure you've heard that before, right?
Well, yes, I have. And in my book of fiction, the one we did a couple of years ago, Behind the Open Door, I really had to be very strong in how I did not want to change because I wanted that child, the telepathic child.
Yes.
I wanted her conversations to be as I knew she would say them, not so that the grammar was correct or something like that. It needed to be authentic to who she is.
Yes. And that's so much about the dance between the interdimensions. Just as you shared the last time we spoke and then today, I talk about things through many dimensions in time. It's just how it comes out, Or I was looking at the news the other night and I says, that stuff was on TV maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I'll go, oh no, Jeanette, you were just ahead, you already saw it, and now it's just showing up in time. So, it depends. Are you ahead? Are you behind? Where are you? What is it all about? And I think there's a lot of misrepresentation out there from the spiritual community. Say, well, you created it. Can we just say, we're passing through this, honey. I see you. Got it. Check it off and move on. Instead of believing that we're creating everything within this hard and fast world, and then getting really sucked down into a very despondent, depressive kind of world in our human existence, right?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting if people think that they are actually the creators of, of the world and the tangibles, and you're experiencing it. You're certainly living it, but you are not. You are not the creator. You can influence it. And you certainly can stifle it, but the creation is not human. And there's many things that you experience that actually are not real at all. You make them real. You make them what you wish them to be, what you choose them to be.
Right. Yeah. It's such a great time to dance in the ethers. As I've created this radio show and you and I speaking and, so much with a lot of my sessions, I just love to dance in the ethers. It's just, let's come up. Let's see who else you were before. Just as you and I were talking, I said, I see your angel. I see you as an angel self. I don't see you as whatever construct, I wouldn't know what kind of your house you have. I wouldn't know what kind of body you have. And it's irrelevant because all of that is just a construct and a story of perception. But I can see, sense, and know that other higher self. And that's where we want to start communicating, start connecting, start being with others in that higher space. Your other book, too, Sally, if you could mention it to our listeners, being able to dance in those ethers and through those dimensions and times. Yes?
Yes. Yeah, Behind the Open Door, the Book of Light, it's a 5-part series. I'm writing the second one now, which is actually called The Alchemy of Time. interesting that we were just talking about that. But it is absolutely about beyond what is considered normal, and being able to accept and encourage the growth and the belief in the experiences beyond this earthly level, this earthly plane. And the alchemy of time will also bring in a lot more fifth-dimensional experiences and things like that. That's going along. I'll have that out by the fall. It's going along very well. I'm very pleased with it. So, yeah, all good things.
Very good. Sally, can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about the Soul Garden?
Yes, the Soul Garden Pathway Discovery Guide is available through all of your major online vendors, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I am a self-publishing author, and I did use Balboa as a production platform, and it has been featured in a number of venues. It recently was written up in Eden Magazine, and so it's getting out there. The pandemic has slowed some things down, but it is getting out there. It's being used in Tennessee at a holistic business as part of their Reiki Master classes. So I'm very fortunate. I know that I'm being guided to go to reach out to different people and venues. I was so happy when you had been given the book and contacted me because, again, what you present out into the world and the radio community just brings, a vast expansiveness to the availability of this book to help others to grow and expand.
Absolutely, because our show is global. We are all the way in India, we are in Europe, we are in Asia, everywhere. And I think the idea is that we are all across the earth on some sort of journey, mission, where we all know we're now becoming seekers, and we're all looking. We're eyes wide open. So I think whatever we can find that comes across our path or what drifts into the ethers in front of us, it's about being able to engage in something different. And I think both your story, your novel, and also this discovery guide, that's truly about, are you willing to step out and just to be able to dream again? Someone said to me one day, well, what is your dream? And I said, I don't have a dream. That's a human concept. I truly don't. It's sort of like, well, what would you dream? Well, if you dreamt something, what would it be? It's like it doesn't exist for my mind. I can't even. I'm sitting here with my mouth open and my hand moving because there's nothing there, because it's that human story again. Because in essence, I'm already navigated and living from the higher plane in time, and that's what you and I are encouraging by reading a novel with a character, by reading a guide and writing out your story, by listening to you and I talking today, is encouraging and engaging and bringing this forth to be able to say, lift up, people, lift up. And this is what it looks like. So that's what we share today, is what it looks like from our perspective, yes?
Yes, perfect.
Absolutely. Well, Sally, it was such a pleasure to have you with us. Could you share with the listeners the information about your work? That would be great.
Yes, I am a spiritual gardener. I believe that my abilities are about healing, and I do that through my writing. But my healing is really to elevate. It is about sharing information that I know and I receive from the higher realms, and to share that with people so that they too may have access to that and be able to enlarge. We all have a journey in life, but we can go the journey together. And I am very willing to share. I spend a lot of time creating. I create sanctuary space for living things and gardens and plants. I work with nonprofit organizations. I hope that in my lifetime I have been of service. I am a nurse by background for many, many years. That's really where I learned and began to see that this life we are given is a gift, and our ability to share and communicate with each other is a prime objective. And when people say, "What do you dream?" what came to my mind is, I don't dream either. I think I'm living my dream because I'm so happy in what I'm doing. And I just believe that my purpose is to take what is given to me and bring that forward.
Yeah. And Sally, going back to when you and I spoke with your other work, pretty much you and I had talked about our past lives, or we must have been in the same space and time. It was so funny because, and we had shared that because here in New Orleans, you almost feel like it's always a land of deja vu, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we must have been angels in rising, too, because as we shared before the show today, also, too, I just kind of wanted to remind you, hey, honey, did you forget about your wings? Because, you know, they're still packed there, you know? So maybe, hopefully, on your next book and your next show in time that you come on, we will talk about how you unpacked your wings. Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, I would love that. I will look forward to that. It will happen.
Yes, it will. Well, we thank you so much for joining us today, Sally. It was a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Jeanette. And again, all of this information that you so readily bring forward, you're a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you'd like to find out more information about Sally Gallot-Reeves, again, her book is The Soul Garden Pathway Discovery Guide we spoke about today, and also about her other book that we had on the show previously. You can always Google Dr. Jeanette welcomes Sally Gallot-Reeves, and both links will come up to the old show and to this show. But also, too, if you'd like to find out about our current work, please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to her website where everything will be referenced. And it is about saying, how can we dance in the ethers? I, too, as a medical intuitive, naturopathic physician, a mystic, and a shaman, and, as a visionary, I see things from a totally different perspective. And if you'd like to have a session to be able to dance in the ethers with all of your storytelling, let's go around to all the dimensions in time, and let's see how we could see you from a different perspective. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to my website, and there's a 50% off coupon for your first session to be able to say, wow, let's just see something. I need to flip this story. And maybe we might be able to start shedding some of this human dogma. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and until tomorrow, have a wonderful day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit dr.jeanette-gallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.